Yeah, I was kind of afraid that was going to happen. I'm just being too lazy to go back in and get the tripod. Hi viewers, my name's Kara. I'm your host for Tuesdays on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we're talking about our mood and our spell. This week's topic comes from Tatiana, and since it's kind of long, I previously recorded me reading it, so here's the full thing, and it'll also be in the description. You've studied and prepared for a spell that should be done in a specific day at a specific time, but on that exact day as the time approaches for you to begin the spell, someone in your family makes you really mad, or you get into an argument with your loved one. Your mood is totally spoiled. You're sad or angry or confused. Should you follow through with your planning and work your spell in a crappy mood, or should you postpone it, even if you'll only be able to have the same conditions for the spell in 4 months' time? Yeah, that's what the question is. So I actually answered this question a long time ago when she originally asked it, because she messaged it to me personally. So I put it on the list for Pagan Perspective, but I also answered it at the time in case it was pertinent. So basically what I said was a lot of my usual, it depends on the situation, but also if you guys know me at all, which you do because you've been watching my videos for years and I talk about this a lot, you know that I don't typically do things that are required at a specific day, specific time. I try to match it up with the day if I can, if it's convenient. I like to work with the moon phases, that's for sure. But I've never done anything so specific that the right conditions wouldn't come back around for another 4 months kind of thing, you know? If anything, it would be, oh, I'll wait till next month. But so while I usually don't do things like that anyway, let's just say for the sake of argument that I did, I think what I remember saying to her then and what I still think is true is that for me, a lot of the time, if I've decided to do something and then something else comes up, I end up usually feeling really bad if I let it slip by. And I end up feeling a lot better about everything, about myself, about the situation, if I somehow make it work and I end up doing it. Like for example, this past Imulk, I really wanted to do a candle blessing because I've always wanted to do that every year since I started practicing. I wanted to do a candle blessing ritual on Imulk, or for Imulk, and I had never done it. So this year I said I'm going to do it. It's part of my things that I'm trying to do this year. I was like, I'm going to do this. And I ended up getting really busy that night. It didn't work out, and I really considered just waiting until the next day. But instead, it was like 2 in the morning, and I was like, you know what? It's late. It's not even really technically this day anymore. I wanted to go to bed. I don't remember. But I said, even though it's late, and even though it's after the fact, and even though I'm not totally in the mood for it anymore, I made this decision, and I want to stick with it. I'm going to do it even though it's a couple hours later than I had planned, or whatever. So I did it, and then I found that, for me, when I start the thing, I focus on that. I create my ritual space, I create my sacred space around what I'm doing, and that puts me in the mood to do it. So it changes my mood, brings it back to that. And so oftentimes, this was a long way of getting around to the point of saying that for me, oftentimes choosing to do the spell or whatever it is anyway really improves my mood and helps me. So if I had gotten into an argument with someone, or if I had been upset, I find that going ahead and doing the thing I had planned to do makes me not upset anymore. However, I do remember saying to her that I think it matters if it's a difference of if it's something that you can, for example, put aside the argument in favor of doing the spell instead. But if it's a big argument with your loved one, for example, then I personally would want to work that out first. I wouldn't just walk away from the person and say, sorry, I have a spell to do later. I would work out the interpersonal issue and then go back to that later if I had time. So for me, the timing is not as important as I would try to get it done even if it was a couple hours later, or even if it was the next day or the next week. The things that I do, like I said, it wouldn't be something so specific that it's not going to come around again for 4 months. But yeah, so I think it depends on what the thing is that's upset you, number one, if you can continue and go ahead with the spell. Sometimes there's an emergency and you end up in a totally different place and you can't have time and space to yourself. You just physically, you cannot do it at that time. In which case, I would just try to do it at the next available moment that I could. Not necessarily 4 months later, but a couple days later or whatever. And it also depends on whether it's something that you can walk away from for the moment and take the time to yourself to go ahead and do what you were going to do, or if it's something where you need to deal with the problem that arose first, and whether you feel it's something that you could bring your focus back around to. Because I don't think, for me, that it's a good idea to proceed with a working if you are still really angry or really sad or just really unfocused. But for me, part of creating the space to get ready to do a working is coming back to that focus. So if you're able to do that, then I think it's okay to go ahead and do that. That's what I would do personally. If you can't reach the point where you feel like you're really giving your energy to it, then no, I wouldn't do it. I would just wait until another time when I can. I'm sorry this was short-ish. Well, I'm not really. You deserve a shorter video, and I'm sorry that it was rambly. I'm also doing it kind of later in the day. It's 8 p.m. on Tuesday here already because last night I was going to do it when I got home and my car broke down as I was coming home from my friend's house from my Monday job. So I was stuck on the side of the road for a couple hours until my uncle could come get me, and then my brother was going to go pick up my car, which he still hasn't done. But so my uncle took me to my grandma's so I could borrow Graham's car. And then this morning, Grandma wanted to go to the hospital because she wasn't feeling well, but I had her car, so I only got 3 hours of sleep and I had to go and get Grandma and take her to the hospital. And she's okay now, she's back home, we found out what was wrong. She was experiencing some pain, so she's got some medication for what was wrong, and we know what was the matter now. So I worked today and then came home and of course got distracted online doing other sorts of things. And I knew this was a topic that I had already thought about before, so it's after 8 o'clock here, it's still light out, which was nice. So thank you for watching. I will see you next week. Don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.